Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
I'm ready. I don't know how ready I am, but I'm ready.
That's what I was got. Like, let's compare that to something. Like, you're ready as what?
I'm as ready as Jodie Foster to be dropped down into the time travel machine.
I love that movie.
How's that?
That movie made me want to be a priest. I thought Matthew McConaughey was the hippest priest.
Matthew McConaughey is the hippest anything.
He really is.
He's the hippest serial killer.
I hate that
He's the
guy.
hippest stripper. He's the hippest criminal. He's the hippest lawyer. He's hip.
He's a hip dude.
He's a hippie hip. He's hip and hippie.
Cat. Wow.
Yeah. Hippie hep cat.
I need to derail just a little bit. Before I know we have things to talk about, kind of serious things, but I need to talk to you about where you stand on Star Trek. Where do you stand in general on Star Trek?
In the Star Trek
series.
The
TV
I like Star Trek.
Like have you seen them all?
No. I've only seen Star Trek and The Next Generation. I never watched beyond that.
You never watched anything beyond that?
No.
All right. Well, I'm in the middle of I'm introducing them to my kids. Did we have this conversation already? Have we talked about this?
No, because you were for years now. You've been introducing what is it, the Lois and Clark or whatever?
No, please, Lois and Clark,
whatever it's called. One of those Superman things.
Smallville, you tool.
There you go.
How dare you lower me to Lois and Clark? So we've moved on. We finished that. We finished all that. All that nonsense. 10 years of Superman, and we've moved on. And so I gave my children a choice, because I've got them all. I've got every episode of every series here in my house.
Wow. That's
you've all just learned something really incredible about me. And it's like you're all in my closet, which is awesome. And so I'm introducing them to Star Trek. I gave them a choice. And so what I did was I gave them my 30-second pitch about each series. Original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. Okay?
Why wouldn't you just start at the beginning?
Because I already knew that wasn't going to fly.
Okay, gotcha.
I knew that sitting down and watching The Cage with my 6 and 10-year-old was not going to fly. That was not going to be enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm getting this is what I find so interesting about this. So my kids actually chose Voyager, right? And I think my daughter is very interested in that sort of strong female protagonist captain. Like, she was very cool at hearing it was a woman captain. But it struck me sideways that the very first Vulcan that my kids would be introduced to was not Spock. Right? I found that weird.
So they hadn't seen the movie?
No,
they hadn't seen the latest J.J. Abrams Star Wars director movie?
No, they had not. They're very interested in it now, but I'll tell you why. So I went back after we're through. We've got like 4 more episodes in season 2 of Voyager, and I think Voyager really gets good. I think there's a lot of really good stuff. Once all these series, Deep Space Nine too, once they find their kind of sea legs after that 3rd season, and they usually they have really dumb uniforms. Same thing happened with Next Generation. Really stupid looking uniforms in the first 2 seasons. Then they get some good uniforms. Then the shows get good. I don't know why they didn't know that going in, that it's all about the uniform. But in any case, so I decided that the first Star Trek movie. This is my daughter. My son was not into the longer movies. So my daughter, we sat down and I decided, I made the call not to watch Star Trek, the original film.
Smart.
Right? We skipped that. But
Good.
we started with
We
started with Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
Man, that was a great film.
It is. It
I'm
really
not
is.
kidding. It's been many years since I watched that movie. We had a ball watching that movie. When they put the Ceti Alpha 6 bugs.
Oh yeah.
In the ears. Poor
I
Chekhov and the captain. That was me too. That was tough.
I had nightmares about that because I saw that in theaters with my dad. I guess I would have been like 9 or 10 or something. And that gave me nightmares for years. I was afraid of earwigs because of that. And I was convinced they were called earwigs because that's what they did.
That's what they did. They were earwigs. And anything like the little silverfish that crawl up your drain, they look kind of like them with the little pincher things. It was horrible. That was a horrible thing. They actually, knowing my daughter as I do, I gave her the option of whether or not she wanted to see that. I described it in great detail. We skipped that, minute and a half of the film. So
yeah.
She did not actually see that. But the rest of the film, man, when Khan, with my last breath, I spit at thee, when he does his thing, she was on the edge of her proverbial seat. I was really pleased with how well that movie holds up.
And it's a fascinating movie because there is so little if any, I can't. No, there is a little bit of time that Khan and Kirk spend together, but hardly any.
Right.
The vast majority of the film, they are on two separate ships. It's like a submarine movie.
Right.
It's like an old school submarine movie. Yeah.
Right. Or Driver.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We talked about that with Driver, right? Didn't we?
Drive.
Was it Drive? With him and what's his name? Anyway, it was fantastic, and so we've not moved on to the Christopher Lloyd. We're kind of going back and forth with the movies, but I feel like we need to get through the canon, so she knows who Kirk and Spock and all these people are. So she's pretty excited about it, but it's going really well.
Good.
Are nice. You? I mean, your kids they're not old enough for that stuff yet.
No.
I can't wait.
I know we're still doing Tinkerbell and the Lorax over here.
Oh, I haven't seen the Lorax. I heard it was bad.
Don't watch it. She loves it, but it pains me.
I know you're a big fan of the Tinkerbells.
You know it.
Yep.
Anyone who wants to know
we have a list.
My favorite Tinkerbell movies, they can check it out on thenextreel.com.
What else can they find at thenextreel.com, Andy?
They can find are you setting me up for something? What am I supposed to say?
I don't even know.
They can find blogs. We post trailers that we are interested in. We post, great little bits about all these fun lists that we do relating to things that we talk about on our show. And they can find all of our shows.
Soderbergh's quitting movies. Is that right?
I think he keeps saying that. And then he keeps putting them out like every year. So.
I know. What's up with that? So you wouldn't learn that because we don't trust him, but we love him anyway.
Yes.
You gotta talk about the phone. Did you do the phone number? Show at thenextreel.com. You can write us an email, please do, and you can find us. You can call us at 657-201-REAL 657-201-7335. The Heart of Anaheim, and leave us a message, and we might just play it on the air.
Indeed.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're a Twitter person, you can find us at the Next Reel, at sign, and the Next Reel. You can find us.
That's right.
Yep. All right. So what do you got for your trailer of the week? I'm very excited about this. I want you to learn me something wonderful.
I am really excited about this film. I think it's one of the films I'm most looking forward to in 2013. Coming out in April, it's Mud, directed by Jeff Nichols. It's his follow-up to the fantastic Take Shelter.
So
and
this is Matthew McConaughey and the lovely Reese Witherspoon.
Yes, Matthew McConaughey, Reese Witherspoon, Michael Shannon's in it, Sam Shepard, Joe Don Baker, a lot of people, and a couple boys, one of which is getting some pretty big billing, Ty Sheridan. I don't know if he's going to be, making a name for himself. He was also in The Tree of Life, and seems like he's going to be a pretty good actor. So, but yeah, this movie's about two boys, teenage kids who are playing around on a little island near them or something, and they find a fugitive, and they form a pact with him to help him evade bounty hunters who are on his trail and reunite him with his true love.
Is that Joe Don Baker?
As a matter of fact. Good old Joe Don Baker.
This is the Southern romantic comedy we've been waiting for since The Prince of Tides.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Very excited for this one.
You can't go wrong with Joe Don Baker in a movie, though. You know what's funny about Joe Don Baker? And this is a complete tangent to the trailer, which I am excited about the movie. But Joe Don Baker has been in a number of James Bond movies, and
yes.
there's he's the villain in the Living Daylights. He's Brad Whitaker,
right.
And then he comes back in GoldenEye and in Tomorrow Never Dies as like an FBI agent or something, Jack Wade. And so
right.
I always thought that was kind of funny.
Wasn't he's CIA, right? He's
CIA,
the guy who brings in all the guns.
Yes. So.
Oh, Joe Don.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Great character actor. But anyway, that's my trailer. Looking forward to seeing that when it comes out, and it's gonna be a great movie.
Mine is Upside Down with Kirsten Dunst and Jim Sturgis, a Juan Solanas film. Juan Solanas is an Argentinian director who hasn't done a whole lot. I don't know much about Juan. But I'm very excited for the movie. That Jim Sturgis, I like that guy. He's one of those guys. He's kind of on my list of people I like watching.
Mm-hmm.
He did the Cloud Atlas. That was great. 21, One Day. He's on a good track, and this film looks very interesting. Kirsten Dunst, she's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
But this film, I don't know what to make of it. So the whole conceit of the film is that we're on a planet that looks a lot like Earth, and the only difference is that it actually is. There's another one right next to it, connected to it, and they have equal and opposite gravities, and so they can stand, and one person can be standing in downtown wherever it is and look up, and they see other people at work on the planet that's right above them.
Yeah.
And so to me, it feels like somebody who said, wow, I just saw Inception, and I want to make a movie like that.
Right. Except
Right?
the whole movie.
The whole movie. It's going to be, I just want to just beat your face with Inception in my own movie. And so I'm going to make it, it's going to be called Upside Noir.
Right.
And so, but it ends up being kind of a love story. It's a Romeo and Juliet kind of a thing, or where they fall in love. They're not allowed to love because they're from different planets that are really close, and then they're reunited.
And you forgot to say, one of them is all rich people, and one of them is all
poor people, right? But there is a sequence in the trailer that you will see that I think, if you're like me, you will find this really freakishly cool. Sturgis's character is given these weights so that he can travel to the other planet, and and these weights will hold him down, and there's a sequence of them dancing, and they have reunited, and it's great. And then they find him and realize he needs to go back to his poor people planet. So he runs out and he jumps into the ocean, takes off the weights, and you see him fall up out of one ocean and down into the other. And I found that just a riveting effect. I love the idea of playing with gravity. I get very excited about it. So I'm very excited about this movie.
Yeah, I quite liked that too. I mean, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Nope.
I'm curious to see how the logic is going to fly in that film. But that being said, it did look really cool.
Yeah, it looks so cool. And I think there's got to be, there's sort of got to be room for seeing movies that may ultimately end up bad, but they were really visual candy. So.
Yep. Well, you know how I feel about some of those movies.
I know, right?
I hope this one is a little more than that.
I do too. See it once. So I'm excited about it. And, Argentinian directors is, that it's out of it's got to be something, right? Out of the system. A new Argentinian director, they've got to come with some sort of, street cred.
That's right. He's not even like a big time Argentinian director.
No, he's
like a new guy who did some short films in Argentina, and now
he's got this thing, and it looks good. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got. Shall we talk about this movie?
Let's.
We're continuing our John Huston series tonight, right?
See.
We've done. Weirdly, we have completed 2 other ones, right? We started with the Fantastic Maltese Falcon, and we did the Treasure of the Sierra Madre after that, which was a stunningly satisfying rewatch.
Yes.
And I think a real highlight in terms of just where Huston pushes actors to go as characters. It was particularly in that time. I think it was wonderful. And so tonight we're picking up again with John Huston's Key Largo, 1948.
Yeah, same year as Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Yeah. Another Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall and Edward G. Robinson in this film.
And Lionel Barrymore and Claire Trevor. It's really
it's a big
stunning cast. Yeah, it really is. Great group all around.
It is. It's okay. It's a great group all around. You're right. Tell me what you. Well, first of all, it's been a long time since I had seen this movie, and it was based on. Let's see. It was based on the play, originally written by Maxwell Anderson.
Yeah, and it was a what was the type of play? I read something that described the play, and it doesn't sound like it was like it's not like a one-man play, but it's something. It's like a free-form kind of just a very simple, very simplistic, short play, and so they took this play and really, I mean, the adaptation was really kind of just almost rewriting it and turning it into something else. I mean, Maxwell Anderson wrote it in 1939, and then along comes John Huston, who decided to do this film. And it actually was his last film that he did for Warner Brothers. He was getting pretty put out by Jack Warner because Jack Warner had refused John Huston to direct O'Neill's A Moon for the Misbegotten. And he was also just dissatisfied with the studio. Everything was kind of changing. It was kind of leaving from a period of people coming up with really creative things to a period that seemed more corporate, commercial, and all of that. And, you know, he was just feeling like his hands were tied. He decided this would be his last film, so he started writing it with Richard Brooks. They visited the Keys. They tried to come up with something that would work that was different from the story from the play, which was it took place in the Spanish Civil War, or just after the Spanish Civil War. There's gangsters, but they're Mexican banditos. They changed it so it happened more recently. This film was made in 1948. It happened during World War II, and he had just come home from the war. And, you know, I think it has a really nice feel to it. I like the film. I haven't read the play, but just kind of based on the little bits that I've read about it, it just doesn't sound like there was a whole lot to it. It doesn't sound like it was really that interesting of a play.
Yeah, no, it didn't seem interesting, and it seemed also like it was a play that Huston wrote. Well, this is the passage I think that's from that I found interesting from let's see, this is from frothygirls.com, and
the place to go to find
the place to go. It's a nice piece here from Nat Almiral, who writes, with its dearth of locations, it's not surprising this was based on a stage play, though Huston was apparently not a fan of Anderson's work. He notes that his and co-writer Richard Brooks' script was dramatically superior to the source material, and, at least according to Wikipedia, Huston's dislike went deeper. Quote, within a quote, the film script was heavily changed from the play. John Huston was so angered with the deficiencies in the play that he barred producer Jerry Wald from the set of the film. It was believed that Huston was in a rage over the House Un-American Activities Committee hearings and didn't want to adapt a play by a reactionary who hated Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, in John Huston, he was very... he really kind of got a vibe for the place that the country was in at this time. And it was very much, he kind of wrote this with that in mind. He really wanted to put some political subtext in it. And, he wrote in his autobiography, An Open Book, he wrote, the high hopes and idealism of the Roosevelt years were slipping away, and the underworld, as represented by Edward G. Robinson and his hoods, was once again on the move, taking advantage of social apathy. We made this the theme of the film. So, he really keyed into that. And you can get that from Humphrey Bogart's character, Frank McCloud, how he's really kind of not interested in taking a stand against this gangster that's kind of holed up in this hotel down in Key Largo. He would almost just rather, just kind of set aside and just let things happen as they may. And it's not until the end that, of course, he is able to step up and become the hero and everything. But it really was, a political subtext of this film that John Huston wanted to get across, that, America is sinking into moral complacency. These gangsters are coming back. And, we really need to find a way to do something better.
Right. And the whole idea of sort of where we are in our kind of cultural development of crime. I mean, the gangsters are lamenting what happened with the loss of Prohibition, and that they weren't making any money anymore.
Right. And and I said World War II, but I think it actually is World War I, right?
Right. And we're talking about, I mean, and so the model of Robinson's character, it's kind of a Capone kind of a character who, is kind of associated with that decade of real, just raking in the money through Prohibition. And I think I read at one point he was making more than, $60 million a year from the illegal sale of beer.
Sure.
And so Robinson's sort of portrayal of this thug who is at this in sort of the trying to build his and reclaim his empire and get down to Cuba and start from scratch and
with a load of fake bills,
right, and start building reclaiming his throne. I think it's a fascinating way to set the stage for this, what otherwise is kind of it's not so much a locked room mystery, but it really takes place on one set. I guess a couple of sets if you count the boat on the dock, but most of it takes place in this house or in this hotel. Do you want to walk through just briefly what the story itself, how the story unfolds?
Yeah, so Frank McCloud, this veteran who's returned home from the war, is going down to Key Largo to find the father and widow of somebody that he served with, so he can kind of tell them what happened to this guy when they were serving together and what a hero this guy was and all that sort of stuff. He goes down to their hotel, which they manage on Key Largo, only to find, because of the season, the hotel's actually closed, although this gangster has actually paid a ridiculous amount of money to kind of rent the place out for a week and has holed up there with his cronies while he waits for this shipment of these this counterfeit bills to come in so that he can take it, hop on a boat, and go down to Cuba and make it big. Of course, at the same time, so conflicts ensue with all these people in the hotel. And then, of course, at the same time, this hurricane rolls in and starts, ripping things apart and making a real mess for everybody. And so that's the long and the short of it. And then, obviously he has to kind of step up. Is he going to help, stop these guys, or is he going to just stand aside and let them kind of run over him?
Yeah. Now, right. So then the storm ends up passing, and things kind of unravel as the authorities are introduced to the film. The thing that I find interesting about this, to me, this is an Edward G. Robinson movie.
It really is. I mean, and he is, God, what a presence Edward G. Robinson has. He comes onto the screen and you just can't take your eyes off of him. I mean, he's riveting, whether he's getting a shave or taking a bath or just, freaking out because of the hurricane or whatever. I mean, he's just so amazing to look at. And it's funny, John Huston actually referred to him when he's in the bathtub with his cigar in the mouth. He said he looks like a crustacean with its shell off.
which is absolutely brilliant. And I think that's, you bring up that scene, that's how we meet Edward G. Robinson in this movie.
Yeah.
That's how we are introduced. He is smoking this long, he's smoking this long cigar, and he is in the bathtub with a fan on him. And it is a strange choice, I think, to introduce the film's primary antagonist, in otherwise kind of a vulnerable way. But I think he plays it so well, right? He plays this sort of, this kind of eccentricity so well. Mm-hmm. that he earns it very quickly. He earns that vulnerability very quickly by the time he gets down and really sort of takes ownership of the rest of the film. And I think the reason I'm kind of hedging how I'm talking about Robinson is because this is also a Bogart and Bacall film, but to me, Lauren Bacall has a real gift in this movie of just being beautiful and. Bogart is, he gets his sort of brooding thing going, but really they were, I think, to me, otherwise unimpressive in this film, and really sort of paled in comparison to what I thought Robinson did.
Well, and I think that is because of the characters in the film. I mean, she's a war widow. She really kind of has a much more tragic demeanor to her the whole time. She's very quiet, subdued, and I really like how she played it. And I think it's how they were written. They just have a very kind of laid back way. There's not a big romance between the Bogart and Bacall characters, even though they do kind of fall
weird,
for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, she was married to his buddy in the war, and it's almost like one of those, you don't want that relationship to happen because it feels so awkward sorts of things. And it kind of does. It comes in a little bit at the end, but, it's not quite there all the way. And I mean, they started 4 films together, To Have and Have Not, The Big Sleep, Dark Passage, and Key Largo. This was the last one they did together. And this relationship of all of those 4 films is definitely the most subdued and least interesting of all of them.
Right.
But again, I think it just boils down to it's because the nature of the characters. And I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it works fine.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But it just, it surprised me because the first time I watched this movie, when I went to sit down and watch it again, I remembered it as this was a Bogart movie. And I was surprised at just the dominance of Robinson's character and Robinson's persona on screen, even though, I just found him really compelling to watch through and through.
He always is compelling. He's just so great, whether he's a good guy, whether he's a bad guy, whatever. Yeah. I mean, and the great thing is, I mean, he's kind of known as a gangster, and he's got that great line about being a public enemy, and he really fits that gangster role so well. But I mean, this is a man who I think he did 100 films.
Right.
I mean, just a ton of films. And he actually appeared in a good number of them with Bogey. And I don't know what the exact number is, but they definitely shared screen time together before. And he always got top billing over Bogey. And I think this was the first time where they were trying to, figure out a way to handle it, because they didn't really, Bogart was really the protagonist of the film. And so they put them on the same page on the titles and on the poster and everything, but Robinson's name was a little higher, a little taller. So, I mean, in a way, it's just like, okay, you're on the same plane now, but, Robinson still gets a little bump.
Right.
It's kind of funny.
The other, I think, really fantastic performance in this is Claire Trevor.
And she won an Oscar for this, rightly so. Mm-hmm. It's a heartbreaking performance. Claire Trevor really just really breaks your heart when she sings the song. The gangster, Edward G. Robinson's character, makes her sing this song that's called "Moanin' Low." And it's really a tragic song about a woman trapped in a relationship with an abusive man. She has to sing it. There's no accompaniment or anything. And you just hear in her voice the heartbreak, the depression, the bitter tears of being trapped in this relationship for real. And it's a painful song to listen to. And I think for that song alone, she probably got her Oscar.
I think so, and particularly, you look at apparently how the take came together. That she had been trying to rehearse, she'd been asking Huston to rehearse, and he kept saying no, there's time, and then he turned on the camera one afternoon and said, we're going to do this right now, no rehearsal. They gave her the note from the piano and, quote, in front of the rest of the cast and crew, sang the song. It was this raw take that was actually used in the film.
Yeah.
And it just feels it. It feels absolutely raw. It feels, talk about vulnerability. It's shaky and yet really, I mean, beautiful.
Yeah.
But Bogart's character's response, I think, is even even it really is wonderful punctuation on the sequence as he walks over and ignores that he is under gunpoint and gives her a drink,
right,
and says, you deserve this.
Yep.
It was wonderful, and I think a great. This is from that author Philip Furia, who says, who notes that it is a wonderful use of song in a non-musical picture. I think that's a great point, right? I mean, this is not a musical, but it's an interesting break, particularly in the pacing of the film.
Right.
So,
yeah, she really is great. Claire Trevor is somebody who's been around, since the early 30s, and she acted all the way up until the late 80s. So she'd been around a long time. A lot of this period of time, she'd been doing a lot of the film noir, like she's in Murder, My Sweet. And just a great actress. She played these roles really well. She was nominated for a couple other films, Dead End and The High and the Mighty, and she won her Oscar for this film. And it's funny because this, like I said, this film came out the same year as Treasure of the Sierra Madre. And as we said on that episode, when Walter Huston won, he said, if you ever become a writer or director, please find a good part for your old man. And he did, or whatever. Mm-hmm. He said that in his acceptance speech. Claire Trevor kind of took to that since, again, this is a John Huston directed film. That film was also directed by John Huston. And so when she went up, she said, I have 3 boys and I hope they grow up to be writers so they can give their old lady a part. So, so I thought that was great. It was a nice little nod to the Hustons, I guess.
That's wonderful.
But yeah, she really is fantastic in this film, and I just love her for all the noir stuff she's done, and just a great actress of the time.
So how do you feel like this film stacks up to something like Sierra Madre? I mean, I know we'll do the flick chart thing later, but they come out the same year. I know you and I both had very sort of strong feelings about Sierra Madre and particularly Bogart's performance in it. How do you feel just overall about Key Largo?
I like Key Largo, but it does feel very confined, very tight. And, I think that comes from it being based on a play. It does just feel like kind of a one room story. And it doesn't bug me so much. I really love the characters, particularly everything with Robinson and Trevor. I think they are just... they just make every scene with them in it just so enjoyable to watch. The story itself doesn't thrill me as much as Sierra Madre, which really, is definitely one of my top films. I really love that film. This one, I really like it, but it's not something I would find myself returning to time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me too. I mean, I found what I found most interesting about it is I walked away thinking there were some incredibly talented people on screen that were that seemed poorly utilized, and I don't think that's necessarily the fault of the direction, but maybe the fault of the script, that it ends up perhaps with too many voices. I don't know, but I just came away with some sort of mixed feelings. Like I end up really loving specific performances or specific elements or sequences. I think at the bit at the end when Johnny Rocco kind of unravels on the boat right before he's shot by Frank McCloud, I think that ends up being a really interesting kind of psychological sequence. I think Bogart's portrayal when he sort of switches, when there is one of those sort of famous Huston emotional close-up reaction shots when you actually see Bogart realize that he's going to need to change his ways and actually take a part in this exercise. I think it's immediately after the guy is shot in the back as running out. It's the first kind of shot when he realizes that he needs to actually take a part. And I thought that was captured really well. But overall, when you ask me kind of, well, how does the film stack up? It's not one of my top films. It's certainly not one of my top Huston films.
Right. Yeah, definitely not. Well, yeah, it is an enjoyable film, but it's not something that I think that either of us, clearly are going to return to time and time again.
Yeah.
But it does have a nice, real quick, it does have a nice hint of the world of film noir, which, we know John Huston's kind of already dabbled in with the Maltese Falcon. It's not quite noir. It doesn't really have any like real dark characters. This one is pretty clear between the good guys and the bad guys. Right. It doesn't really completely fit the whole thing. It has a happy ending. A lot of things that don't scream film noir. But then again, the way that it was shot, the way that Karl Freund, the cinematographer, shot it, it really does have a very kind of film noir look to it, which I do find pretty interesting. It's got a lot of those shadows. Like you see some great shadows up on the wall or on the floor, wherever they are, as people are kind of going around. And it's got some interesting, the way that the framing is. It does feel noirish sometimes. And I find that really interesting that they're adopting some of the noir tendencies to expand on this tight crime story. Which I really like about it. I really like the look of this film quite a bit.
Yeah, Karl Freund, I think, he brings that an interesting sort of feel to his films. You go back to the legendary sort of Dracula or Metropolis, and you see some of the same curves of light, and I think it plays well in this sort of one room mystery of Key Largo. At the same time, there is that conflict of you walk in saying, okay, this is Huston, this is Bogart, this is a film noir, and then it's sort of not. And I almost feel like we get into a little bit of a high jump, low ceiling kind of association where that may be where some of the emotional tension kind of pulls apart for me, where I lose interest in the overall story and find myself kind of drifting back into, thinking about something else.
Well, yeah, and I can see some of that, but at the same time, I also feel this film really taps nicely into the crime films that Warner Brothers was cranking out in the 30s. Where both Robinson and Bogart came from. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go back to Rico Bendello in Little Caesar that Edward G. Robinson played. And, you've got him really kind of creating a lot of these gangster films. And Bogey as this bad guy before he really broke out with Maltese Falcon. And then you see where these guys, they come together again here. And I think because of that, it does kind of have the noirish look. But I think in so many ways, I think this one feels much more like the crime stories of old rather than a noir.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that. But, and then so you bring up, Little Caesar. You bring up, I don't know what else, Double Indemnity, these movies that I just think Key Largo doesn't hold a candle to these films. It almost, what it feels like to me? It feels like the last breath, right? It's the last breath when we've run out of energy. This movie, it ends up feeling like there are so many great elements, and then we're all just kind of, finished.
Yeah.
That's what this movie feels like to me in terms of a sort of cross or transformational genre film. It just doesn't feel like it's terribly aggressive in figuring out what it is or what role it plays in either genre as successfully as certainly some of those that had come before.
Well, and I wonder if some of that comes from the need that Huston felt of putting this political subtext in the film.
Yeah. I think that probably makes that's probably spot on.
Because I do find when people make films and they feel they need to get a message across or something like that, or build this bigger theme that taps into modern sensibilities. I mean, sometimes it works really well. You look at something like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is a great film that was made that tapped into kind of the witch hunts
Right.
of the communists and everything that were going on at the time. I mean, but it was done in a way that you didn't have to see that subtext there at all. This one, it does feel a little bit like it's just trying to beat you over the head as far as, oh, this guy's complacent, he's not going to take a stand, and you're a coward, all that sort of stuff. I mean, it does.
Look at Lionel Barrymore, a fat man in a wheelchair. Who does he remind you of? Right? That talk about beating you over the head. Like that's right.
Yep.
All right. So, I found I really loved the music of this film. Max Steiner.
Yeah, Max Steiner, he knows how to write us some good scores.
He certainly does. I found that was a part that really stood out for me.
Yeah, and I mean, geez, this is a composer who was just, very busy this year. I mean, conducting the music for Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Mm-hmm. He wrote this. I mean, he's just, he's good.
He is. He's good. That Max Steiner. Man. Let's see. What else really stood out for you in this film?
Well, this film, I have to point out a couple. There's another element of this story where you have these Indians, these Native Americans down there. These Osceola, or the what's the tribe? I can't remember the name of the tribe. It's the Florida tribes. I couldn't remember an adaptation. I can't remember here. What is the name of these the tribe down there? The Seminoles. You have these Osceola brothers who are wanted by the cops because they did something, and it's kind of a weird thing that's going on with them, and they agreed to turn themselves in and all this sort of stuff, and it doesn't go well. But you get to this one scene where you see them coming in. They are introduced by Bacall, by Nora Temple, to Frank McCloud, and you get this just horribly awful me don't talk English good sort of dialogue, and it pains me to hear him doing that, because otherwise I think that I like how the treatment of the Native Americans for the most part in the film it's actually done pretty well. It's except for when they speak, it just all of a sudden becomes so awful and stereotypical.
It is. It's horrific, but I'm interested in how they fit into your schema of being treated pretty well.
Well, I mean,
okay, so
they're not treated well. They're treated very poorly.
They're treated poorly and end up dead.
But I liked the relationship that these people have with them. That it's not like they're treating them like, oh, we don't talk to them because they're the Indians or anything like that. They actually have a good relationship with this tribe, and you've got the grandma there who's smoking the cigarette and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's I like the way that they treat them just like regular people here in Key Largo. I guess that's what I was saying.
All right. So
but going back to that, Jay Silverheels is one of these two Indians, these two Seminoles wanted by the law, and he is a Canadian Indian actor who everybody should know as Tonto. He rode with the Lone Ranger.
Oh, right. Yeah. All right.
He is Tonto. So, a weird. I don't know if it's that weird, but it's just considering we've got Johnny Depp coming out later this year, playing Tonto. Here we go watching the original Tonto in Key Largo. Jay Silverheels.
I did not catch that. That's very interesting.
It is.
I would just think about on that topic. You're right. When they speak, it's by our ears horribly offensive character treatment of these. Obviously it was a different time, but I found it interesting that these guys were very clearly on the run from, quote, the state. They were, the authorities were looking for them. They stopped the bus to find them. They're searching vehicles. These guys had found sympathy in this liberal hotel owner, and they end up in a really weak sort of chase, running from the authorities, and are shot in the back. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. That just, I mean, that felt like, again, you talk about being hammered over the head with what's going on in, our sort of the socio-political environment, and the hunts of those that, because there was really a question about whether or not these Indians were guilty of anything.
Right. Well, even Lionel Barrymore says, these guys, these cops are just, they feel the need to just come in and, I can't remember his line, but they feel the need to just come in and clean up all the Indians and get them out of here.
Right.
And it does.
The apology is when he comes back in and everything is straightened out, and the officer comes back in. What is the officer's name? Do you have the cast list in front? Well, I gotta find it. He comes back in and he's what he says amounts to basically, really sorry I shot those guys.
Yeah.
Like it was Monty Blue as Sheriff Ben Wade.
Monty Blue, right.
It's a really sort of, I think that's so much more of the hammer over the head story that we're getting from Huston and Brooks.
Yeah, and you can tell that Huston is much more on the side of the Barrymore and these characters, and he feels that these are wrongs that
unjust.
We're committing these days, and that's why I guess I appreciate that they actually even bothered including a story with these Native American characters in here. But you're right, it does end up feeling that it's just like another opportunity to hit us over the head with a political message.
Yeah, this is one of those films, though. I wonder. I sort of felt the same way when I saw Double Indemnity this summer. I think we talked about this, or last summer, at the Chautauqua Film Series, the classic film series, where they play these things in this really old classic theater, and we certainly don't have one of those here in Portland. So, it was very exciting to see that, and you sort of feel like you're going back in time. And I wonder, this is one of those films that I so deeply wish we had, like a time machine. I would love to go to a movie house in 1948 and see this movie with the gift of context, because I think I think I'd get a lot more out of it. I'm not sure if that means the weight of this film deflates with time. It's certainly not one that holds up as well as Sierra Madre.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't. I mean, it's got
good.
Great characters. It's definitely worth watching.
Right.
I mean, it is still a good film. I mean, don't listen to us and assume that it's not.
Oh yeah, you should see that. You should see this movie.
Yeah,
there are very few movies that we cover where we think you should not see it.
Yes. Consider us watching Rush your penance for not having to watch Rush ever again.
That's one of the movies. All right.
But it does have its moments. It is good. Jerry Wald produced this for John Huston. Jerry Wald I'm trying to remember if they had worked together before or not. But Jerry Wald had he actually the same year he won. I don't know if you win, but he received an Irving G. Thalberg Award in 1948. It was a very big year for all these guys. I am saying Irving Thalberg. I'm stuck on Edward G. Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
He received the Irving Thalberg Award for Johnny Belinda, which came out the same year. So just like Huston, Wald had a couple films in the race that year as well. Wald has produced 70 titles. He's one of those that has quite a list of hits. Been around.
Yeah.
He's been around from. It looks like he started in the early 30s, and went all the way up into the early 60s. So yeah, he had a good chunk of time doing that.
Good. Good film. I'll give you. It was a good film. I enjoyed watching it.
I do enjoy watching it. I mean, it's one of those films that's kind of nice to put in every once in a while, just to kind of refresh your memory. It definitely doesn't need to be seen that often, but I mean, if for no other reason, watch it to watch Claire Trevor. I mean, amazing performance by her, and just it breaks your heart to watch her in this film.
It sure does. Well-deserved Oscar.
Yeah. This film, it looks like it made it. I couldn't find anything as far as how much it cost to make, but it did make just over $8 million domestically. And so it's not a huge chunk of change, but we're talking $1948. And when you look Let's see, Treasure of the Sierra Madre, same year. Actually, I couldn't find any information on how much that grossed, only how much that one cost, oddly. So, yeah, but, it was a very successful film for its time. People really enjoyed the film.
Truly. All right.
The last little bit that I just have to throw out is, this is one of those. Have you ever been to the Keys, the Florida Keys?
Yes. Well, it's been years, but yes.
Yeah, likewise for me. Taking a drive down the Keys, I think, is pretty interesting, going across like the 7 Mile Bridge and all that. And
that is a crazy bridge.
It really is. It really is.
It's totally unassuming. It's not like one of those crazy Australian bridges, until you realize, like at mile 4, you're still on a bridge.
Yeah, you're still on a bridge out in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
God forbid a tidal wave comes along or something like that. Yeah, it's a really interesting place. I don't know, like Key West, Key Largo, all these keys down there. It's almost like its own little life. It's like a long town stretched across all of these little islands down off of Florida. And it's really strange. I went down there once, and I did quite enjoy it. And, I loved seeing the sea and the sharks and everything down there and the fish. And, but it's its own unique culture.
Yeah.
And I got to say that the other thing about this film, and this film is one of the things that will forever be cursed, along with many other things in the Caribbean. Every time I hear the name, instantly I'm singing the Beach Boys.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. That's unfortunate.
Any of these places, yeah.
Speaking of the fact that it was shot in the Keys, I thought it was interesting, just as an observation, that Huston went to such trouble to do that long tracking helicopter shot to open the film. Mm-hmm. Where we actually put Bogart. We're introduced to Bogart on a bus. We put him on a bus, and we see the authorities coming to. So the entire film, the rest of the, what is it? Is it hour and 40 minutes?
Right. Yep.
All right. So the other hour and 37 minutes or 38 minutes takes place in either on a boat, kind of the last 15 minutes of the film, or in this hotel. They went to. It seems like great efforts to give us this establishing shot of the Keys that seems to look sort of out of place.
Well, my sense of this, and I don't know if this is true, but I know that almost the entire film was actually shot on the Warner Brothers lot.
Right.
And except for the open, and there's some storm scenes of when the hurricane is raging that were actually pulled.
Some cutaways, yeah.
Yeah, they pulled those from another film. I think it was the Ronald Reagan film, Night Unto Night, some stock footage in that film. So my sense is that John Huston had done The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, spent a ridiculous amount of money filming on location in rural Mexico. And I have a feeling that this was the studio putting a kibosh on him actually going on location for his next film, saying, okay, you already did that once. Now you're going to make this here at home. You can go get your one little shot, but don't even think about trying to do anything on location.
I love that. You could sort of see how that conversation goes, right? Like,
yeah.
Or you could shoot here.
Right. Just think about it. Just think about it.
Really, you could shoot right here. Okay, so shall we rank this thing? Are we ready for that?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just kind of looking through, seeing if there's anything else I was going to talk about. I think we kind of hit all of it. So yeah, let's rank this bad boy.
Let's do it.
Pull open our flick chart here. Now ranking. All right, Key Largo. This will be our 66th film on our list. All right. Key Largo.
All right. Go ahead.
All right, ready?
Yeah,
Key Largo.
I'm ready.
Or David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Key Largo or The Parallax View. I'll say Parallax View.
Yeah, Parallax View. Yeah.
I really enjoy that film.
Yeah.
Key Largo or Bullet.
Bullet.
Yep.
Sorry, Key Largo. This may be down there with Rush.
No, it's not quite, but it's pushing its way. Key Largo or Alien Resurrection? I'm going with Key Largo on that one. I'll probably watch Alien Resurrection more often, but that doesn't mean I like it more.
Yeah, I was just going to say that may be sad.
It
Okay.
really is.
Right.
It really is sad.
Yeah, I'll give you Key Largo on that one.
Key Largo or Bull Durham. I'm totally
Oh,
Bull Durham on this one.
I know you are. Dang it.
And I know you are too.
All right.
Come on.
All right. I mean,
you
fine.
give the 2x4.
I was just gonna say, like, what do you like more, looking at a 2x4 or being hit with one?
Ouch. Wow. Right. Right.
All right.
And Key Largo or Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'm going Key Largo.
I know Key Largo.
Yeah.
I know.
It's got great lines. Yeah. Okay.
It's got great lines.
61 out of 66.
Okay, so just give me the ones that are below.
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Alien Resurrection, The Fifth Element, Strange Days, and Rush.
Wow, I can't believe The Fifth Element is at 64.
Oh, I can.
You're a hard person.
I am.
You're cold and hard and okay. This was good. This was good. So next, what are we doing next week? Can we talk about it?
Next week, we're going to be continuing our John Huston series, and we're going to be jumping up just a couple years to The Asphalt Jungle.
I'm really looking forward to watching this movie again.
I am too. I haven't seen it in, I don't know, probably 5 years or so, and I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out again because I really enjoy that film.
It's terrific. Terrific film. I hope I like it again.
Well, yeah, with John Huston, I always get a little nervous with his films. Like, did I like that one? I don't remember.
Did you ever catch I got this old home video from my parents. They had, it was an old VHS tape, and it was some fishing video, right, of me as a kid. And they said, you need to put this on a thing so we can watch it. Whatever you do, make it so we can watch it now on our iPads. That's what they wanted. So I did this. It was like 20 minutes. And at the end of that, there we go with Alfred Hitchcock Presents that we had recorded from one night years and years ago.
Okay.
And it was the John Huston Hitchcock Presents bit.
The one with the fingers?
With the fingers.
Yeah.
What was that called? Do you know what that was called? Because I didn't get the very beginning of it, but man, that was fantastic.
That's the that's the one that they remade that. Remember in the 80s when they started remaking episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, like for a new audience, and it's like mid 80s. That was my introduction to Alfred Hitchcock, and they were all color, and I don't remember who was actually in that one. But that's also the one that Quentin Tarantino did his own little kind of spin-off of in 4 Rooms when he did his story there.
Exactly.
So
that's exactly right.
Yeah, so that story is...
you know what? Now I can tell you. It was 1985, The Man from the South. Man proposes a bizarre wager to win a sports car. A down-and-out gambler must light his lighter 10 times in a row or lose a finger.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it is. I should have, before I sounded silly by not knowing it, I should have just searched for it because it was right there.
There you go. And it was John Huston in the 85 version, not the 55 version, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. But it was... Oh, it's you. I could just take your little pinky.
That episode really creeped me out.
It was so creepy. And the car that he was like a Trans Am or something like that. It was great. It was great.
That's
all
good
right.
stuff.
All right. That's all I got. Hey, it's
well, and just before we completely leave.
Yeah.
As far as John Huston goes, I mean, we're definitely talking about a lot of his films that he's directed, but we will at some point start talking about some stuff that he's acted in, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because, I mean, this is a man who has a very big career as a director, as an actor, and as a writer. So he's all over the place.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think, we did a couple of Huston. Well, sort of did them last year. We'll do a couple this year. I think we both really like Huston. We'll come back.
Yep.
And do these again and again. All right. I got nothing else. I'm officially done with you.
Ouch. That was a blow to the gut.
Was it? Really?
Nah, not really.
We wanted to take a moment to thank you for your continued support over the years. It's hard to believe that we've been having weekly, in-depth discussions about movies since 2011.
That's right, 12 years and counting. Producing this show is a labor of love for us, but it does require a lot of time and effort each week.
If you enjoy our podcast and would love to help keep it going, there are some easy ways you can show your support. One is by using our Originals page to shop for the original source material that movies we've discussed were based on.
That's right. In Season 1 alone, we covered 13 films adapted from books or plays, from Charlie Kaufman's adaptation to David Fincher adaptations like Fight Club.
In Season 2, we covered even more, like Powell and Pressburger's The Red Shoes and The African Queen from our series about legendary cinematographer Jack Cardiff.
We can't forget about the 4 Jason Bourne movies we talked about. Love those movies. Well, the original trilogy, at least.
For our Richard D. Zanuck series, we did Jaws, Rush, Big Fish, and more. And for our horror series, we talked about John Carpenter's The Thing, which was adapted from Who Goes There?
We did our first great car chase series with movies like Bullet, The French Connection, and Drive. And for the holidays, we did Preston Sturgis's Christmas in July.
We had a great John Huston series with adaptations like The Maltese Falcon and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
And for our baseball series, Moneyball with Brad Pitt. Have I told you lately how much I love that movie?
Yeah, I think you have. Plus, our Magician series and Heist film series had adaptations as well.
Tons of page-to-screen gems. Listeners can find the details and links to the original material at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play, or movie you buy through our links helps support the show, and it's no extra cost to you.
So dive in and get your next read today. thenextreel.com/originals has all the films adapted from other sources that not only we have covered, but all of the shows on the Next Reel family of podcasts. Check it out and get reading.
Support the show and build your reading list. It's a win-win. Head to thenextreel.com/originals.